Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ladies Lounge.
Wow, this one's very slippery.
It's very slippery.
In the first 5 years, while children's physical growth is evident, their brain development remains relatively unknown to most parents. But did you know 90% of brain growth happens by the age of 5, when most children have recently started school? Research from Start for Life, which is an early years communications program that provides trusted NHS advice during pregnancy and for the first 5 years of a child's life, found that 80% of parents are unaware of this milestone and what part they play in helping to build their child's brain. As 1/3 of children are starting school without the basic skills needed to thrive, a campaign from Start for Life called Little Moments Together explains how every smile, every chat, every game played are interactions that build a child's brain. These moments are just what they need to get off to the right start at school. We are now joined by Dr. Patricia Britto, a leading educational child and adolescent psychologist specializing in neurodiversity, emotional well-being, learning difficulties, and resilience through Mode Educational Psychology Services. She provides expert assessments, interventions, and training for schools, parents, and professionals. We'll say a very big welcome to you, Dr. Patricia Britto.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you.
We're very happy to have you, and surely this is a very important subject. A subject I don't think I've heard much about. So we're very glad to have you here today. Can you tell us more about this campaign, Little Moments Together?
Yes, thank you so much. The campaign aims to raise awareness of the importance of everyday interactions between parents and their children within the early years. And early years, we're talking from 0 to 5. So the importance of talking, playing and reading with your children can actually have a huge impact on their development, helping them to be much more happier, helping them to learn social skills such as making friends and getting on well at school.
What impact has the children watching the parents? What's the impact rather than the parents teaching? Is there any correlation there?
Absolutely. Research shows that when parents model positive behaviours to their children, they are more likely to mirror those behaviours and, display them accordingly. Yes.
Right.
So, I mean,
Okay.
you probably know the saying that children do what you do rather than what you say.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you put that side by side with the communicating, what would you have to say about that? What the parents are doing, what they're teaching, how do the two, go hand in hand?
So like I said earlier, everyday interactions is really important. So through modeling, you might notice, I don't know if you've got children, but if you reflect back from about the age of 4 months, they are likely to be watching your lips, your lip movements in terms of how you
Right.
formulate words. So that's you modeling interaction with them rather than them just spending all day on a screen, for example. So they're actually seeing you interact with them or seeing you interact with other members of the family is very important. Absolutely.
Right. Can you tell us why this is, really important now, this first 5 years?
Research has shown that not that many children are achieving the expected level of development in
Okay.
communication, language, and literacy at age 5. And that percentage is 36.6%. That's quite high, if you ask me. And whilst 89% of parents believe that their child is ready for school, again, research shows that only 54% are ready for school. And school readiness is very, very important for them to be able to access learning in the classroom. We know that early years are really important for building the foundation of communication, social skills, and other aspects of their cognitive skills. So when I say cognitive, is the ability to learn and to thrive and do well in school and later life.
Mm-hmm. How did this campaign come about?
Lots of psychologists and other professionals like myself have been singing about this for years now, and I think the DFE decided to do something to support children and young people all over the UK and their families.
Okay. I'll pass this on to my sisters to take it from here.
Amazing. Dr. Patricia, it's such a pleasure to have you on board with us. And, you mentioned earlier, you're talking about the cognitive development of children in early years. Can you tell us a little bit about how exactly a child's brain grows and how they learn in these early years?
So the human brain actually develops faster than at any point in their lives between the age of 0 to 5. So did you know that about 90% of the brain growth happens by the age of 5? 90%, that's a huge number, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. So if you could think of a child's brain like building blocks, and every time, every moment, every interaction, you're adding a new block to the building block, and you're building a strong foundation for a healthy brain development. And the great thing is that these moments can happen anywhere, at home, whilst you're going for a walk, whilst a child is in the pram. So I remember when I had my child, I'll give it for example, we would go for walks. I had her during COVID, so there wasn't much, available to us, but we would go for walks and I would point to everything I could see, a tree, and so we would pause and say, this is a tree, the color is brown, it has leaves, the leaves are green. That sort of thing is really important because you are building the blocks in a child's brain. And these moments can be also built in times where you're at the shops, for example, and you're describing what you're buying. Little moments can be built into your daily routine like that. So it doesn't have to be difficult and it doesn't have to cost anything. There's no need to buy lots of toys or have big day outs. Wherever you are, simply talking to your children back and forth, answering their questions and sharing special moments together can really help their brain grow. Also, we need to remember that there are some children that are non-verbal, and
Mm,
non-verbal doesn't necessarily mean they can't communicate in terms of understand you, because communication is a two-way process. So they might not be able to express their words, but they might be able to actually receive what you're saying. So it's important that you still talk to your children that are non-verbal too, and describe what you're doing, narrate everything, even while you're moving from one room to the next in your house, you can narrate that process. It's really helpful.
I love
Wow.
that. And I think it's just so important to mention that, you mentioned as a mom that
Mm,
you were really stressing on pointing out things that your child could hear you say and then look at it for themselves.
mm.
What are some more should I say moments together that really impact a child's connection and really helps them develop in those early stages, like especially their brain development? What other examples or what other things can parents do possibly?
Okay, first of all, I have to say family life is busy. I mean, we all know that. But the good news
Mm,
is any of this could be done at any time. So
Mm,
down to daily activities like cooking, for example, and you could be counting the seasonings and the amount of seasonings you're putting into your cooking. For example, when I was making my baby's milk, I would actually count the amount of scoops I was putting in the milk bottle.
mhm,
And I never actually explicitly taught her how to count, but one day when she turned 1, she could count. And I was like, oh, wow, because I'd done it repeatedly every day, it became part of her norm. And I can't overemphasize things like talking, reading, playing, singing. That really helps to build a strong bond with your child. It can help with their communication and language skills to develop. So I would encourage parents to keep talking back and forth, even when there's something that's, very trivial that you might think it's new to your child. You have to remember babies are new to the world and they're like a little sponge and they're soaking in all the information that you are giving them. And even when they're really tiny and really young, also you could copy their sounds and mimic their sounds, their facial expressions. That can make a big difference. Research has shown. If they look or point to something, you could take on their cue as well and name
mm,
it. So even when you're going for a walk and cars are driving by, so that's a red car, that's a black
mhm,
car, that car is blue, for example. And if they point to something that is maybe they saw a cat and they're quite intrigued about that, you can say, oh, yes, that's a cat, and really emphasize it. It's really important that we take on their cues as well because they are also exploring just as much as you are. And again, reading bedtime story together is very important as much as possible. Having your child when they're at the age when they can read back to you is quite good as well, in terms of helping them to test their reading skills and practice their reading skills. Or naming colours, like I said already, having name of fruits, for example. I remember I used to actually print out pictures of food items that I would buy from the shopping centre, and I will take when she was 2, she's now 4, I'll take her to the shops, and we will tick the items that we're buying to get
Oh,
her involved. Yes, because I
mhm.
really wanted her to learn in that way as well, to develop her brain. Also practicing things like waiting in a queue. It sounds very trivial, but this is how children learn to wait as well.
Yeah.
Every opportunity you get, like I said, it doesn't have to cost anything. It's just involving them in your daily routine and remembering that they are human beings. They're not plants.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're not robots,
Yeah.
and they are watching you, so you can get them involved and incorporating learning into everyday life.
I'll just jump in there quickly. People, culturally from years gone by would have had some certain level of culture where children should keep quiet and hush hush and, be seen and don't be heard. And, when you're in public, just stay quiet. And I guess this is like, a campaign to bring people out of that. I believe people are coming out of that. It's my hope that people are
Yes.
coming out of that. But what you're saying now really throws light on how important this is. And I,
Mm.
I do have more questions, but I'm going to hand it to Steph now to
Okay.
take it from here.
Amazing.
Mm.
Thank you so much, Dasa. Dr. Patricia, it's just such an honor to have you on our show. I think
Oh,
everything you've
thanks so
said has
much.
been so amazing. I remember my daughter, she's 6 now, and we used to count up the stairs. We had exactly 10 stairs. So we used to count going up. And when she was 1, she could count up to 10 because we used to do that every day from when she was like 5 months. So I understand the importance of that. I know you've mentioned a few more things. Can you give us more, provide our viewers with more example of it, more simple and easy activities that they can do, they can add to their routine to help their children's development?
Yes, as parents, we are always thinking about what to cook and what to prepare for food in terms of meal times. You could actually get your children involved in that as well, in making those decisions. And also you can get them involved in preparing the food from as young as when they could sit, actually. You could buy those kind of sitting chairs if their child is 6 months, and it could be something as little as stirring, or observing you bake, observing you cook. That's one way to start. And when they're old enough, they could help you with stirring, they could help you with pouring, they could help you with mixing whilst you're preparing a meal or baking, for example. And from doing that, you can, really emphasize your words, like, I'm mixing, I'm turning, I'm swishing. They are picking up on those words, and it could actually expand their vocabulary as well. And meal times, once the food is prepared, can be quite a great way to spend time with your child, having a chat while you eat. For example, you can count the food on their plate. You can talk to them about the colors of the food, the seasonings of the food. Actually, from the age of 4 months, I used to take my daughter to the seasoning cupboard to smell the different seasonings as well. Yeah, and talk. And we talk about what's spicy, what's not spicy. So that's an activity that you could do as well. And even whilst cooking, helping them to understand the difference between warm water and cold water as well. It really helps to help them to understand their world better. And when you're out and about, your child might notice different things to you. Pay attention to that, what grabs their interest, and you can join in and explore their world together.
Mm.
Absolutely, yes.
Amazing. This is such great ideas. So for where can parents, if parents want more information on what activities they want to do, is there a place they can go? Do you have, a website or where they can go for more ideas of things they can do to engage their kids every day?
Yes, so all you
Mm.
have to do is search for Start for Life for tips and advice and information on your local family hub.
Okay, so Start for Life.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Yes.
I'll hand over now to Dasa.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you again, Dr. Patricia. I think it's one thing that is important as we hear what to do is the consequences if we do not do. So what really happens if, this phase of life is missed? If a child does not, get from their parent or their primary caregiver, as it were, if they don't get, this subtle education. If a child doesn't have that, what happens?
I mean, as I said earlier, that research actually shows that children are coming into school not ready to learn. And that's one of the consequences in terms of, like it said earlier, research shows that only 54% are ready to learn. And what does ready to learn look like? It would be things
Mhm.
like communication skills. It will be things like understanding social cues, like waiting, turn taking, understanding how to even initiate interaction in the first place, like, can I play with you? These are things that seem so simple, but yet some children need to be explicitly taught how to actually implement that in real time. So when children are not given these opportunities, they may start school without having the foundation, and it will mean that they will be developing that at a much later age rather than actually having the opportunity where their brain is developing at that 90% fast rate between 0 to 5. That's really the time to build those foundations. Like I said, it's like a building block. So if you do miss it, all hope isn't lost. You can still
Okay.
help children to develop their skills and make progress in life, whatever progress looks like to you. But it's really important that if you have the opportunity to do it, I would definitely emphasize that you implement these strategies and activities that we've talked about to really help your children to thrive and do well in everyday life. It's not just about school, it's also about life, in
Like,
terms
yeah.
of like life skills like cooking, going to the shop, waiting, road safety, like crossing the road. It's all part of everyday life that we need to function as individuals in the world.
Right. So it's important that, a child is involved in life and
Yes.
involved in living and
Yeah.
lifing, as they would say
Yeah.
these days, so that they can
Yes.
actually live and live as they should live.
Yes.
Otherwise, there will be an impact, not just on the society, because if they're starting late in school and, or they're starting not ready, as you put it,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that sounds like it'll have an impact on them in school, on the learning, on the teachers. It'll have an impact on other children and and the wider society. If you look at it, it will have an
Yes.
impact on the parents or slash primary caregivers. It has an impact all around. So that really stretches the importance, of this campaign. So I would like to say thank you very much, Dr. Patricia. I think this has been, a subject that, if not pulled out, it would be kept quiet kind of subject, and you have pulled it out. And I'm hoping, I'm trusting that everyone who listens, would a seed will be sowed in their mind about the subject, and they'll begin to pay attention if they have children or if they know people with younger children to say something about this.
If I may add just one thing, and
Okay,
I have to say some children have a neurodiverse need, so they can't
right.
help, and their development is delayed by default, which is of anyone's fault at all. It's no
Mm-hmm.
one's fault. It's just that they have an underlying need. So if that's the case, you can still implement the strategies to move them along and work with your school, work with your nursery special education needs coordinator to really utilize the strategies from Start for Life campaign and embed it at home. And consistency is key. It's important that you are doing similar approaches to what your school, your child's nursery is doing to really strengthen and hone in on all these strategies that you're implementing. And also culturally, I think I could speak for African cultures. In some African cultures, in terms of teaching and learning, lots of African countries have children where they don't progress if they haven't passed an exam, for example. Whereas in this country, you do just keep progressing, even if you don't pass, I don't know, year one phonics, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to approach things differently, and we really have to try our best to get it right and try our best to help our children to make progress, because they are being educated in this system and not in the system that you may be used to or from your home country.
Mm-hmm. So which is better? Which is better to progress the child even when they haven't reached a milestone, or to keep them somewhere until they actually reach that milestone?
I don't answer that question because education is, it's quite widespread. It's not just about learning or getting the best GCSEs, maths, English, and science, for example. It's also, honing on other skills like art and creativity, and their ability to have other skills. For example, I would say I was listening to Richard Branson recently, where he's got dyslexia, but look at him as one of the wealthiest men in the world. So holding him back might have not been a proactive thing to do. So it's very difficult to answer that question.
Yeah, it depends,
It
really.
depends, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, on so
All
many
right,
factors.
thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Patricia.
Thank
And
you.
you have said if parents, caregivers want, more tips and ideas, they can visit the Start for Life campaign website.
Yes.
Right. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So it's Start for Life, and yes, let's start our children right. We look into the future and we are wanting it to be better than it is today. This looks like a small thing, but actually it's one of the biggest things. If you would prepare the people for tomorrow today to be ready, what we need to do, we must do now. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you again next time. Bye-bye.